have another group, the elderly, that suffer a lot from hunger.
Yes.
Do you have any?
Well, in the U.S., this is really going to be a growing and very important issue. In fact, I believe even as we speak right now, the House Hunger Caucus is having a hearing this morning on hunger for older Americans in the U.S. And it's estimated that Meals on Wheels has done a study. I believe it's about 1 in 9 seniors in the U.S. are experiencing regular hunger. And the problems in the U.S. with seniors is very much that they oftentimes don't want to participate in federal or state safety net programs. There's a bit of a stigma. They feel that they don't need the help. But they do, and they deserve the help. Oftentimes there's problems of access. They are homebound and they can't get out to grocery stores or to even food pantries, and they need some extra assistance with meals. So this is going to be something that should be on the radar screen for Congress and for states. As our population ages, it's going to be a very important issue that we need to pay attention to.
Well, so many elderly will say that the Meals on Wheels that's delivered once a day becomes the only meal they have.
Yes.
We have a very large program in Dallas on Meals on Wheels, and it is practically run by volunteers who volunteer to deliver meals. And some portions of the city it's more difficult to get volunteers or people that drive in those areas, but we have a lot of businesses that will allow employees to be on loan for the purpose of driving in the middle of the day, getting meals out to people. What can we do to get more knowledge out so that I know they are very thoughtful people, and there are many congregations that are willing to be of help, but it's very hard to get the information out to them?
Well, one of the wonderful things now about our age of information is that people can learn a lot about what's going on right in their own areas. You don't have to go overseas or to do good work. You can do it right in your own community. And people in your district, anywhere in the U.S., can look and see what's happening locally with the food pantries or food banks. They can volunteer. They can go online and do a search for food banks and put in the name of their city or their state or their county, and they can get involved by volunteering, by making donations to food banks, food pantries. Meals on Wheels, again, is another wonderful way to take part, to volunteer. They can also take part in supporting and urging their members of Congress to sponsor good legislation. And I'll just mention a few examples right now. In the House of Representatives, there are a couple of pieces of legislation that I would recommend people could learn about. One is called the Roadmap to End Global Hunger. This was introduced by Representative Jim McGovern and Joanne Emerson, who again are members, they're bipartisan members of Congress. You know them well.
Sure.
They are the co-chairs of the Congressional Hunger Center where I work. And Jim McGovern is from Massachusetts. He's a Democrat. Joanne Emerson is from Missouri, and she's a Republican. But they've introduced some legislation called the Roadmap to End Global Hunger. And it's a very comprehensive approach. And also there is the child nutrition reauthorization. If you want to get active on child hunger in the U.S., in the next year we're going to be reauthorizing a lot of the programs that feed kids in America. And so people can educate themselves about the child nutrition reauthorization process, and they can learn about that at an organization called FRAC, Food Research and Action Center, and that's www.frac.org. So those are just some resources. People can get involved in advocacy with legislation, or they can volunteer in their local area food pantry or food bank.
Well, it becomes very educational to get involved. You really begin to see the full picture because very frequently people who can help don't have the opportunity to see the people that need the help. But that is one way you can, is volunteering in organizations that are attempting to address the problem.
Well, one of the things that just reminds me, I should share this with your viewers. This is Mickey Leland, and Mickey Leland was a person who really did get involved. I don't know if you can see this, But Mickey Leland's a member of Congress from Texas. He died in Ethiopia when his plane crashed.
20
in
years ago
August
this year.
1989, exactly. And Mickey got involved. He was very hands-on. He was a hands-on guy. And he would take trips to Ethiopia, Sudan, Kenya, a number of places with other members of Congress, particularly Republicans. He'd bring everybody along. And he would touch kids. He'd play with kids in the refugee camps. And that's what energized him. That's what got him to go back and to do stuff in the U.S., to enact legislation and find funding for these famines. And so he got connected.
That's how he lost his life. He was on his way to Ethiopia with a very wealthy philanthropist from New York to talk him into giving some money or sponsoring a program to address hunger in Ethiopia. He's really quite a hero in Ethiopia because of the efforts he put forth. He was very much like a brother to me, and I still remain very close to his family. And he's from Houston, and I was from Dallas, but we worked very, very closely together. And he worked with Representative Emerson. Representative Emerson was here when I came, and he was still working.
Yes, I have a photo here of so your viewers can see. This is Bill Emerson here and Mickey Leland. They were the co-chairs together of the House Select Committee on Hunger, and they were great friends. And as I mentioned before, very different. And unfortunately, Bill Emerson died of cancer in 1996, and his widow, Joanne Emerson, took his congressional seat and ran for his seat, and she also is a champion against hunger.
Yes. Well, that has great history for me, and certainly it's hard for me to think of Mickey without thinking of all the things that he stood for. And he was a citizen of the world and felt that it was so connected that we could not afford to leave one country without food when the other one had plenty.
And the U.S. has this tradition, both on the government level and private citizen level, of assisting and responding, and it's really wonderful. The U.S. is a leader in fighting hunger around the world. And presently, the Obama administration has a very, very comprehensive global food security initiative that they are in the process of finalizing right now. Secretary Clinton and Secretary Vilsack. Secretary Vilsack is the Secretary of Agriculture. The two of them are working very closely along with all the other federal agencies to come up with a very comprehensive approach to ending global hunger. And it's a very exciting time. And the non-governmental organizations here in the U.S. are working closely to provide advice and guidance on how to do this, because our organizations have been in the developing world for over 50 years, and the Obama administration is being very receptive to this idea of cutting hunger.
And it's a very good substitute for war.
It is.
Because when people are hungry, they tend to be more irritating and irritated, and that's where some of the wars began.
Yeah, they become desperate. People mobilize to get resources, and conflict begins, and at that point it spirals out of control. So trying to get programs in place, particularly in agriculture, providing small-scale farmers with better seeds and tools and irrigation, these are all things we can do.
Yes. Thank you very much. We're out of time, and I'll see you next week.